Tonight, we're exposing the prettiest illusion in fame, the good boy mask. On camera, they were safe, soft smiles, clean reputations, hearts you could trust. But off camera, they were surviving closets, contracts, and cruelty, then striking back with desire, defiance, and pure fire. These are 10 handsome gay men who stopped playing innocent and started living loud. 1. Troye Sivan, the soft boy who turned the camera into a nightclub. On camera, Troye used to feel like a whisper, a polite YouTube kid in his bedroom, eyes locked on the lens like it was a confessional. In 2013, he pressed record and came out to millions, not with fireworks, but with calm, trembling honesty that made people feel like they were hearing a secret meant only for them. He later admitted he did it while he was about to get signed, terrified he'd be outed and have the rug pulled out from under him. So he took control of the narrative first. Then came the cage nobody warns you about, the good gay contract. Fans loved him most when he was gentle, unthreatening, and eternally boyish, a soft symbol they could protect. But adulthood is loud. Desire is loud. And if you're queer, the world doesn't just judge your art. It audits your body, your tone, your right to be explicit. Troye has openly talked about internalized homophobia and how it can haunt you for years, even after the world thinks your story is resolved. So he did what pop stars do when they're done being adorable. He lit a match. Rush arrived like heat, a glossy, queer after-hours fantasy that refused to apologize for pleasure. The backlash came in 2 layers. The predictable homophobia that follows any visible gay man, and the intra-community argument about representation and body diversity in the video. Troye acknowledged the critique, and also confessed that body-shaming comments aimed at him reopened old body image wounds. Around the same era, he described how dancing, once intimidating, became a genuine passion, like he finally gave his body permission to take up space. Comment time. Is Troye's Inferno era liberation, or just a new kind of pressure with better lighting? And subscribe to Silent Fame, because the next face looks like a gentleman, until you hear what it cost him to stay one. 2. Jonathan Bailey, the gentleman who carries a matchbook in his pocket. On screen, Jonathan Bailey plays safety, the kind of leading man studios love. Polished, charming, built for period dramas and blockbuster fantasies. The good boy you can introduce to your parents. When he steps into roles like Bridgerton's Anthony, the camera reads him as control, tradition, romance, innocence with sharp edges. But off camera, his story is less ballroom and more battlefield. Bailey has talked about being a gay kid at school who felt scared and alone. The kind of loneliness that teaches you how to perform before you ever learn how to breathe. And early in his career, the message wasn't subtle. In one interview, he recalled being told there were 2 things people didn't want to know about you: if you were an alcoholic or gay. Imagine hearing that while you're trying to build a life. Imagine realizing your talent isn't the only thing being judged. Your truth is being treated like a risk assessment. Then comes the Inferno. Not the tabloid kind, but the kind that rewrites rules. Bailey didn't burn down his image by acting wild. He set fire by refusing to shrink. He's spoken about the weight of history and the pressure to be excellent as an out gay actor headlining a major franchise, and how sexuality can still get treated like a commodity in casting conversations. And then the culture does something unbelievable. It crowns him People's Sexiest Man Alive 2025, making history as the first openly gay man to take the title. The fantasy machine has to admit it. The heartthrob is openly gay, and the sky didn't fall. Drama question: is Hollywood finally changing? Or did Bailey simply become too undeniable to ignore? Drop your take in the comments and subscribe to Silent Fame. Next up, a man who played warriors on screen while fighting a holy war inside his own home. 3. Luke Evans, the action hero who had to survive his own apocalypse. On screen, Luke Evans is built like a weapon. A soldier, a villain, a prince with sharp teeth, the kind of man Hollywood casts when it wants masculinity to feel bulletproof. Even when he smiles, it reads as control. Innocent on camera isn't always soft. Sometimes it's the illusion that nothing can hurt you. Off camera, the story is darker, and it's documented in his own words. Evans has written and spoken about growing up in South Wales as a Jehovah's Witness, where being gay wasn't a phase, it was a sentence. He described being bullied for being gay before he even understood what it meant, and living with the terror that if he told the truth, his life as he knew it could end. He talked about believing he might die at Armageddon, and about the punishing stakes of being discovered, not just by classmates, but by an entire religious system that could demand exile. That's the friction. While the public later saw a confident, handsome action star, he was carrying years of fear and silence. The Guardian details the odyssey, running away from home at 16, being expelled from the church, and effectively having to come out twice across different stages of his career. And still, he became one of the few out gay actors routinely cast as straight leading men and action heroes. That's not just success, that's defiance. His inferno isn't scandal, it's testimony. The invincible action hero becomes something more dangerous, honest. Comment question: should anyone ever have to pay for safety with silence? If this hit you, subscribe, and tell me in the comments which story you want next, the wildest or the most heartbreaking. 4. Colton Haynes, the perfect teen alpha who was dying behind the smile. On camera, Colton was packaged like a poster. Sharp jaw, clean haircut, the kind of all-American heartthrob teen TV sold as safe. Teen Wolf made him look untouchable. Arrow turned him into the loyal, straight-coated hero you'd trust with your life. Off camera? He was living in a glass coffin. Colton has written about how Hollywood didn't just want his talent, it wanted his silence. The message was always the same: be less yourself, be more marketable. In his own words, the pressure to hide became poison, and his mental health fell apart as he leaned on alcohol and pills. And here's the brutal secret that makes his story hit harder. Coming out didn't instantly set him free. It just changed the type of war. After he publicly came out in 2016, he later spoke about homophobia in the industry and even implied it cost him work. So imagine this: the world thinks you're finally brave, while the industry quietly punishes you for being honest. Then, the body keeps receipts. His memoir's overview describes a terrifying 2018 collapse, seizures, hospitalization, and an involuntary psychiatric hold. That's not a plot twist. That's what happens when being fine is your full-time job. People also reported him discussing childhood sexual abuse, addiction, an eating disorder, and a suicide attempt. The kind of pain that never shows up in a red carpet photo. So when you watch Colton now, the difference isn't that he became wild, it's that he became real. The pretty boy finally stopped performing innocence for a world that demanded it, and started fighting for a life where he's allowed to breathe. Comment question: when a star breaks, do you call it a scandal, or do you admit it was survival? If you want more stories like this, subscribe to Silent Fame, because number 5 is the Disney prince who burned his own fairy tale on purpose. 5. Garrett Clayton, Disney's sunshine boy who chose the dark door. On screen, Garrett Clayton was engineered as a safe dream. The bright Disney smile, the beach boy charm, the kind of guy parents approve of and teens obsess over. He looked like a living PG rating. But off-screen, he was trapped in the classic Disney paradox: play romance, don't live it. He later came out publicly in an Instagram post in 2018, acknowledging he'd been in a relationship with a man for a long time. Read that again. For a long time. That's not a new identity. That's years of rehearsing your truth in private so the brand doesn't collapse in public. And here's the move that makes his innocent inferno arc cinematic. He didn't ease into adulthood. He kicked the door off the hinges. In 2016, he starred in King Cobra as real-life adult film performer Brent Corrigan, a role that was the total opposite of Teen Beach innocence. That wasn't just acting. That was Garrett telling the industry, "You don't get to keep me cute and controllable forever." Then comes the part that turns the story from scandal to soul. He chose something many manufactured heartthrobs never risk: a real public love story. People reported that Garrett married screenwriter Blake Knight in September 2021 after more than a decade together. A decade. That means while the world was shipping him with fictional fantasies, he was quietly building a life. So ask yourself, did Garrett ruin his Disney image? Or did he finally rescue the man trapped inside it? Comment bait. Would you rather be adored as a fantasy or loved as the truth? And subscribe. Because number 6 is the internet's funniest cowboy who turned backlash into gasoline. 6. Lil Nas X, the smiling meme who weaponized the hate. On camera, Lil Nas X arrived like a joke that became history. A cheerful, viral cowboy turning the whole world into a sing-along. He looked harmless, funny tweets, bright energy, a star who felt like he came from the comments section. But off camera, he was calculating something dangerous: timing. On June 30th, 2019, the last day of Pride Month, while Old Town Road was still dominating culture, he came out publicly as gay. Not with a press conference, with a tweet: "Thought I made it obvious." That was the first match. Then, the smoke hit. Variety reported he spoke about the backlash after coming out. And in hip-hop spaces where masculinity is policed like law, being openly gay isn't just brave, it's a direct challenge to a whole culture's rules. So he did what the world never expects from a target. He went louder. Montero, Call Me By Your Name, wasn't only a music video, it was a middle finger to shame, sin panic, and religious guilt. Time covered how the video sparked controversy and how he framed it as a message to queer kids raised in repression. Then came the Satan shoes explosion. Nike publicly disavowed them and sued the art collective behind the release, turning the moment into a full-blown national outrage cycle. And when people screamed, "Think of the children," he basically said, "I was the child you didn't protect." Even at the BET Awards in 2021, he ended his performance with a same-sex kiss, and the internet did what it always does: panic, moralize, pretend love is dangerous when it's gay. So here's the real split between camera and real life. On camera, he's a grin. In real life, he's a torch. And the question isn't whether he deserves happiness. It's why the world acts like he has to earn it. Is Lil Nas X a provocateur or a survivor who refuses to be polite? If you want the rest of this countdown, hit subscribe and drop your hottest take below, because the next stories get even messier. 7. Suppasit, the BL prince who burned the fantasy to build a real life. On camera, Muaet was engineered to be the perfect BL dream. Romantic, composed, dangerously handsome. The kind of boyfriend a fandom can project onto like a religion. In the BL ecosystem, that image isn't just acting, it's a business model. Academia has even pointed out how Thai BL uniquely encourages on and off-screen intimacy around actors, feeding shipping culture far beyond the script. And that's where the tragedy starts. Because when millions are invested in your fantasy, your real life becomes a threat. Every smile, every distance, every new friend can get turned into accusations. The same crowd that worships you can flip in a day, from protect him to punish him. The fire isn't always a scandal. Sometimes it's the simple act of choosing reality over performance. Then, Muaet did the one thing BL culture fears most. He hard-launched truth. In October 2024, during a press conference for his single Absence, he called Tulpacorn on stage and proposed, in front of cameras, fans, the whole machine. Multiple outlets reported it as a public, on-stage engagement, and even more deliciously, Muaet said the song was created with a specific intention. He told a songwriter he wanted a song he could use for a marriage proposal. That's the hot part Silent Fame lives for. Two men in crisp suits, a ring flashing under lights, romance so loud it drowns out the noise. But it's also the most controversial move possible in a world that profits from ambiguity. He didn't just step out of the closet, he stepped out of the fantasy contract. So tell me, did he ruin the ship, or did he finally save himself? Drop your take in the comments and subscribe. Because Muaet is a superhero who looked wholesome in spandex, while secretly fighting a war inside his own skin. 8. Kenan Lonsdale, the smiling superhero who refused to stay safe. On camera, Keiynan was bright, clean, family-friendly, kid flash, the cheerful sidekick with perfect teeth and a hero's posture. CW-type roles sell a very specific innocence. Be charming, be grateful, be marketable, and never be complicated. But off-camera, Keynan's story has teeth. In 2017, he came out in a candid Instagram post, writing that he likes girls and guys, and talking about how he was tired of feeling insecure, ashamed, and scared. Teen Vogue described how he revealed years of self-hate and said embracing who he is helped save his life. And here's the secret pain that makes his arc hit. In a them. Cover story. Keiynan shared that his journey started young and included a traumatic outing at 19 and even a hidden 3-year relationship in the US. The kind of double life that looks glamorous on Instagram but feels like drowning in private. Then he shocked the Arrowverse crowd. He left the Flash Talk Legends path, saying he'd changed and his heart told him to keep walking into the unknown. That's when the Inferno version of Keiynan showed up. Fashion risks, queer art, and music that doesn't beg to be liked. His debut album, Rainbow Boy, was framed as a love letter to his younger self and queer community. So, was the world right to demand he stay safe? Just because he played a hero? Comment below. Do you respect the career move or the courage to choose yourself? And subscribe to Silent Fame. We're only halfway in, and the next stories get messier. 9. Tyler Posey, the teen wolf hero who let the mask slip and paid for it. On camera, Tyler Posey was built to be a safe kind of dangerous. The loyal alpha, the boy you could crush on without guilt. MTV sold him as energy, jokes, abs, and heart. The kind of leading man who feels wild, but still wholesome enough to be your first celebrity love. Off camera, his life was a different genre. Posey has spoken about losing his mother in 2014 after a long battle with breast cancer. And and how that loss cracked his sense of family wide open. That's the part fans don't see. The grief that doesn't fit into a press tour. The pain you swallow so the poster still looks pretty. And then came the pivot that made half the internet clutch pearls. OnlyFans. Not as a scandal headline, as a declaration that he was done being owned by a teen idol image. He even discussed it publicly while talking about sobriety and rebuilding his life. Hot? Yeah. Because the clean-cut hero suddenly chose a platform that screams after dark. And you could feel the audience split in real time. Some cheering the freedom, others calling it a fall from grace. Then he lit the second match. He opened up about fitting under the queer umbrella, saying he's sexually fluid, and that statement alone was enough to trigger the usual backlash cycle. Disbelief, mockery, pick a label, you're doing it for attention. But here's the tragedy. When people demand you stay a character forever, honesty becomes a riot. So the real contrast is this. On screen, Tyler was the hero who saves everyone. In real life, he's a man trying to save himself, out loud, imperfectly, and without asking permission. When a former teen heartthrob breaks the purity contract, do you call it freedom? Or do you punish him for growing up? And subscribe, because the final story isn't about being wild. It's about surviving a faith that taught him his truth was a sin. 10. David Archuleta, the angelic boy voice who chose Hell Together over Heaven Alone. On camera, David Archuleta was America's cleanest fantasy, the shy angel-voiced kid from American Idol who looked like he'd blush if you said the word sex. He even paused his career to serve a Mormon mission, the ultimate proof of good boy innocence. Off camera, that innocence was a cage. David has shared that, before coming out, he broke off 3 engagements to women, trying to force himself into a life that would be accepted. He also spoke about struggling with suicidal thoughts under that pressure. That's the horror of certain perfect images. They can be built on panic, guilt, and a quiet kind of self-erasure. When he came out as queer in 2021 and stepped back from the LDS church, the world saw a headline. But what Silent Fame sees is a war story. The fear of losing your community, your faith, your family, because you dared to tell the truth. Then came the moment that melted people. His mother's message. If you're going to hell, we are all going to hell with you. That line became the backbone of his song, Hell Together, a public love letter to unconditional family in the face of religious shame. And yes, there's fire here too. Because the boy who was marketed as purity is now choosing adulthood. New music, new confidence, a body, and a voice that no longer asks to be forgiven. The innocent character is gone. The man is here. Who deserves happiness more than the person who had to survive himself to get it? If you felt any of this, drop a comment with your take and subscribe to Silent Fame. Because sometimes the most scandalous thing a beautiful man can do is live honestly. So tell me, did they go too far? Or did the world push them there first? Were they villains for burning the image? Or heroes for refusing to suffocate? Drop your hottest take in the comments, because I read them all. If you want more stories where fame cracks and truth spills out, hit subscribe, like the video, and turn on notifications. Silent Fame is just getting started.